Please note, the following review was written before A Canterlot Wedding aired. Any potential references to that episode are purely coincidental. Thank you. The episode starts with Rainbow Dash announcing an important meeting for all the town's Pegasi. As she takes attendance, she notices a particular pony seems to be missing, and there's a suspicious-looking tree outside.
Fluttershy's not a tree, silly.
What's going on?
Rainbow Dash thinks Fluttershy's a tree. I do not think she's a tree.
Did you say she was a tree?
No. Well, yes, but not exactly.
You know she's not a tree, right?
She's not a tree, Dashy. I'd like to be a tree.
With Fluttershy finally joining the group, we're given some new information about how the weather in Equestria works. It seems that every year, Pegasi from different cities are given the task of supplying Cloudsdale with water that will be used to make rain clouds, and they do this by funneling the water through a pony-made tornado. Not only has Ponyville been given that responsibility this year, but Rainbow wants to up the stakes by breaking the record set for the most powerful recorded tornado. Alright, listen up. Spitfire, the captain of the Wonderbolts, will be there also. The last time we met, she made her love face at me, so it's very important that we make a good impression this time. Very important, if you, catch my drift. Hell, if you're lucky, I might even let you watch, but you better make this work for me, got it? Yeah! The next day, we see all the Pegasi training to get their wings in shape, except for Fluttershy, who's pretending to be sick. Rainbow isn't taken in by her act, but is surprisingly caring and supportive, trying to find out what the real problem is. It comes back to her fear of performing and being looked at, which we saw in Green Isn't Your Color and Hearthswarming Eve. And to find out where that began, we get yet another flashback to Fluttershy as a filly in Cloudsdale, shortly after the events in Cutie Mark Chronicles. It seems that her problem with getting picked on was much worse than just a couple of bullies that we saw before, as nearly everyone except Rainbow Dash made fun of her for being a weak flyer. And since no one actually stepped up to help her or teach her anything, the only way she knew how to deal with it was to avoid getting attention. Meanwhile, back at the track, the Pegasi are busy training when they notice Twilight setting up a device, and they ask her what it is, to which she replies, Jargon, technobabble science. I am the smart one, so I assume that everyone talks this way. Luckily, Spike is there to translate, and he tells them it's a device to measure their wing power. Savor this moment, for it will pretty much be the last time in the episode that Spike doesn't put his foot in his mouth. Rainbow has set a goal for everyone to reach at least 10 wing power, and for the most part they all do pretty well for their first attempts. Fluttershy is still much slower than everyone else though, and as soon as she spots a couple of ponies laughing, she slows down to the point that she's barely able to stay airborne. Reaching a measured wing power of 0.5, she runs off yet again. Rainbow Dash tries to stop her, telling her not to get discouraged just because some punks made fun of her, but it turns out that's exactly the problem. This is, again, something that she's never learned how to deal with properly. It's also important to note that Rainbow Dash, with the mentality of a lifelong athlete, just doesn't understand where Fluttershy's coming from. The only time their positions have ever been reversed was in Sonic Rainboom, but that was very much the exception for Rainbow. However, while she doesn't quite identify with what Fluttershy's going through, she is trying. Every time she talks to Fluttershy, it's with care and compassion, and everything that she says has the same underlying message, that no matter what happens, Fluttershy is important, both to Rainbow Dash and to the team. In fact, Rainbow Dash doesn't really even seem to care about the 0.5 all that much. She just wants Fluttershy to be there. Meanwhile, Fluttershy is being consoled by her animal friends. There's yet another excuse to reuse her squeaky voice from the first episode, and it seems that the writers finally remembered there used to be a time during Ticketmaster when Angel was actually helpful. With a bit of encouragement and a full 80s montage, Fluttershy starts training, first to overcome her anxiety and then to improve her wing strength. Finally confident enough to return to the track, she measures her wing power again, and gets a 2.3, and runs off. Again. For anyone wondering why I haven't mentioned putting her hoof down, this is why. Iron Will's techniques mostly dealt with overcoming external obstacles. If someone cuts in front of you in line, or if your gardener overwaters your plants and then treats you like an idiot for calling him out on it, that's not a case where you have to ask how your inner child is doing. That's just someone else being a jerk. But the obstacle here is internal. Fluttershy sees herself as a failure, and that brings up the anxiety that she felt when she was younger. And what makes this so miserable is that part of her believes that she deserves to be laughed at. And to be clear, all of her fear, all of her doubt is based on this memory. In the present day, with the possible exception of these two, no one actually laughs at her in this episode. The struggle is entirely with herself. As the big day arrives, though, problems continue to mount as it turns out a significant portion of Rainbow's team is out sick, and not only will they not be able to break the record, they might not even reach the wind speed necessary to move the water in the first place. Immediately forgetting about the record, Dash insists that they have a job to do, and her remaining team gets to work forming the tornado. Their first attempt fails, though, as a few of the Pegasi lose control and the whole thing flies apart. Despite Twilight's protest that it's too dangerous, Rainbow gives it a second try. You know, it's a good thing that Spitfire already has the hots for you, or how else do you think it would look for a potential Wonderbolt candidate putting her entire team at risk? It's at this point that Fluttershy shows up to offer moral support. Twilight encourages her to join in, or the tornado might not be powerful enough. Fluttershy argues that the number is still too low, and even at her best speed it wouldn't be enough. Still, she gives it her best, and it's just enough to make the tornado easier for the rest of the team to handle, allowing them to reach their goal. Of course, I'm sure it's also a pretty big motivating factor when you see the weakest flyer on the team passing everyone. With the job done, Rainbow Dash names Fluttershy as her best flyer, then tries to get Spitfire's number, and okay, what the hell is Spike doing? I think it's official at this point. Twilight really is the new biggest troll in all of Equestria. No, really, you should totally prance around while you play your flute. It'll be awesome. In all seriousness though, this is a really awesome episode that has just about everything you could want from this show. Last time I praised Dragon Quest for doing something different and taking some risks. This episode takes all the best familiar aspects of the show and puts it all forward at once. There's world building, there's character development, there are continuity references, so many references. There's a great lesson to learn, we get introduced to a lot of awesome new background characters. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy are really believable here as being really close friends despite having such different personalities. And despite all the shipping jokes I've made about these two, I have to admit they have a few scenes here that are genuinely sweet. But you can go either way depending on how you see it. Plus, the Pegasus Tornado is just awesome! And every character is in top form. Hurricane Fluttershy gets a 9 out of 10.